Antonio, Texas. I'm Tom Kline. I am here at the JW Marriott Resort and Spa, although I don't get to work on the spa part or the resort part. I'm here for a conference. Today, I'm really excited about today because I'm going to show you, first of all, 2 road warrior tricks, and then we're going to talk about getting organized and staying organized in your business. So right after a brief interlude. Okay, so that interlude was from Better Vantage Point, which is me. But anyway, navigating risk and solving problems. So road warrior tricks. First of all, whether you're going on vacation or you're going on business, I wanted to talk first about how to make sure that your room stays air conditioned if you're not in it all the time. Because a lot of the modern day, whether it's a super nice hotel or it's a not as nice hotel, they have sensors in the room on the air conditioning. And if you're not physically in the room, the air conditioner turns off. That's why when you set the air conditioner sometimes and you come back in the room and it's hot and you wonder why, that's why. So there's something called the VIP mode where you press a series of buttons and it will override that sensor so that you can leave the air conditioner on. It's one of the first things I do after I get to my room is I override it. And what you do in order to find out which buttons to push is you put in the name brand, whether it's Honeywell or whatever it is, go to YouTube, put that in, put VIP override, and it will generally a video will pop up and show you exactly which buttons to push and exactly how that works. So I hope that's good for you for your vacation. It is hot out, as you all know, or whether you're there, out for business. So that's number one. The second thing is a contraption. This is called the Grail, Grayl, and it's a water filter. And the reason this is a great road warrior tool is because it saves you, I don't know if you're like me, but I spend like $20 a day on bottled water. And so this allows me to take the tap water, you basically put the water in, you put that in, you press it down, it runs the water through this filter, makes it taste better. And it like saves me $20 a day on water. So I would have gotten, that's the 16 ounce. There's also like a 24 ounce. I would have gotten the bigger one because by the time you press the water, there's just not much that much there. So those are your 2 road warrior tips for today. But I want to talk mostly about how to get and stay organized for your governance, risk, and compliance activities. When I talk to dealers, both big and small, there's a frustration around what do we do and how do we document our activities? And it's a great question, and I have an answer today, and we're going to talk about it. So you've all heard me say that running a dealership or a business is like trying to tuck an octopus into bed and the tentacles keep flopping out. So here's the answer. So there is software called governance, risk, and compliance software. And what that does is acts as a central hub to your all of your activities relating governance, risk, and compliance. And we'll break that down in a couple minutes. But imagine, and one of my clients particularly likes this feature of the compliance module in some of these softwares. So imagine if you could keep all your leases, all your real estate purchases, all your corporate minutes, all your important documents in one place that everybody could have access to, or of course you can limit the access to whomever you want. Imagine how convenient that would be if you just did a little bit of work, put everything into this software, and that way you were able to access it. And I know I talk to clients all the time who's like, I'm looking for these documents and so is asking for them. And while you can use things like Microsoft OneDrive, it's not quite as elegant, because you can, for example, you can set ticklers to remind you to go update those documents on a yearly basis, and it'll send you an email. You can do all kinds. It's very flexible. The platforms are very flexible. So so being able to upload those documents. So a compliance management system, CMS, you're required by the CFPB and the FTC to keep track of your customer complaints and how they were resolved. Well, where do you store those kinds of things? In the past, I've advocated 3-ring binders, which still works fine. But imagine if you could upload each one of those kinds of things into the cloud, into a GRC platform, so that if any regulator ever came in and said, we want to see how you resolve your customer complaints, you could give them access or download it or print it or whatever you wanted. Remember, it's my opinion that most problems at dealerships start with customer complaints. And you can look to recent history to remind you of that. So if you read the press release from Passport Automotive, where they were fined $3.38 million, you'll see that the genesis of it was customer complaints. The same with Napleton, when Napleton was fined $10 million. When you read the press release, when the FTC Motor Vehicle Dealer Board, or the Motor Vehicle Dealer Board, hope you can see, I just got a message that my connection was having a problem, or the Motor Vehicle Dealer Board come in, you have to solve those customer complaints, or the risk is that you won't, that they'll come in and fine you, and that you'll have problems as a result of those customer complaints. And once they come in, they're not just going to look at the customer complaints. Like when the FTC comes in, they're also going to look at your Gramm-Leach-Bliley activities. And are you compliant? And how are you doing with your compliance? And what activities? They want to see what your activities are. So in addition, this is one way to document that. I've seen various platforms, and some of them don't allow you to upload your notes. And this would be a great place to put your notes, is in the compliance module. So there's really 4 modules that are available on these things. One is compliance. One is risk, so tracking your risks and what you're doing about them. One is audit. And one is policy management. So let's just take a minute. Audit is self-explanatory. It's what activities are you doing to check behind everyone at the dealership to make sure that they are following your policies, because without an audit component to your compliance program, you really don't have a compliance program, because nobody is checking to determine what's actually going on. So on the policy management, that can be insurance policies. It can be any kind of employee guidebooks is a good thing. Is a good example where you could upload the guidebook. You could upload any number of policies that you might have at the store where you want to keep them organized. And remember that you can set these things to send out reminders. So instead of relying on Excel spreadsheets, and this person sends the Excel to that person and they come back, you can centralize all of it. So any Excel spreadsheets that go around, that can be uploaded into these platforms as well. And imagine how much time it saves when your controller, your CFO, doesn't have to pick up the phone and call somebody and say, why haven't you updated the spreadsheet? It can simply send an email reminder to that person that they have to complete it. That's how it works. If you imagine, it's like a Slack for governance, risk, and compliance. It keeps all the communication in one place, and it does so neatly and in a great way. Let me give you a great example of a good use for the compliance module. So let's talk about pollution for a minute. On pollution, Dealers are jointly and severally liable for their pollution, which means they're personally liable if the company doesn't have enough assets to pay whatever fines. And so when you're considering your pollution and your pollution, hopefully you have pollution insurance, but if not, I hope you'll consider it now. When you consider all your pollution vendors, what's happening to your waste tires, what's happening to your waste batteries, what's happening to the waste oil and the equivalent of Freon. I don't remember what it's called right now, but what happens when you dispose of all those chemicals, all the aerosol bottles, there are requirements around all of that. So who's hauling that stuff away? And the reason this is important is you should be getting insurance certificates from those vendors to show when their insurance policy expires, because their insurance policy should be in front of yours in terms of if there's a liability, their insurance should pay first, thereby protecting your insurance and protecting your loss runs. So when everybody has disparate dates of renewal, you can put all this stuff into the compliance module and have it ping someone to remind them that they have to get an updated certificate of insurance. Really very useful. The costs can start anywhere at $500 and go up from there depending on the functionality. And remember, most importantly, you can set up different stores to make sure that all the stores have the same compliance activities, right? Store number 1, number 2, number 3, and each one of those stores within these GRC softwares they can have their own independent auditors, and they can have their own independent people managing them. And you might have office managers or controllers at each one of these locations. And inside each one of those locations, you can set these up however you want. They're, as I've mentioned, they're flexible and they're easy to use. And you can keep other things I'd consider keeping in there. For example, IRS 8300 documentation, OFAC hits. Where are you logging your OFAC hits when somebody comes up on the designated nationals list? You're required to keep all that information. So no matter whether you have one store or many stores, these tools are super effective and super important, I think, to keep your activities organized and in one place. And I think that you would be wise to take a look at those kinds of programs and see if it's something that interests you. Let me take a look. Oh, and while we're talking about that, I've also heard some complaints recently about software vendors to the automotive industry who are providing solutions on the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act or the Safeguards Act. I've heard that there's a number of solutions where the dealers are frustrated that they have no place they can save notes or save some documentation. And so, of course, this kind of solution would be great for that. And you could set it up. And again, you could set out annual reminders. You could remind yourself that you have to prepare the board of directors report every year. It's a place you could store your penetration tests and your vulnerability scans, right? You've got all these pieces of information coming from all these places, and some of them you can store in that, but some of them you can't. And so it would be important to, if I were running a dealership again, remember I was a dealership owner for 30 years. If I were running a dealership again, I'd want all that documentation in kind of one place. That would really make me lower my anxiety about what might happen and where notes might get lost. It would be easy to keep them all just in that one place. And so for those of you who are getting frustrated that you don't have any place to keep these kinds of things, then consider these software solutions. All you have to do is Google them, or of course you could call me, and I'm happy to talk about it and walk through it with you. But I really suggest that you consider doing that. And lastly, before we go today, because I have speaking engagements, I'd suggest that you call me if you have any problems. I won't have the meter run. I'm glad to answer a few questions. I had a call from a dealer, for example, from the Midwest last week. He had a $35,000 problem, which I resolved in 5 minutes. Sometimes these things are super simple. Sometimes they're more complicated. But if I can't resolve the issue, then I probably know someone who can. And so I'd encourage you to call me if you have any problems, you have any questions. Of course, anything you want to talk about in relation to today's broadcast, I'm happy to do. My phone number, in case you want to reach out, is 757-434-7656. Or you can go to bettervantagepoint.com and it's on there as well. So I hope you have a great day and a great week ahead. I'm Tom Kline, and thanks for seeing things from a better vantage point. Have a great day.